welcome back to C&D. As you've already guessed, and you've probably already figured out, this is going to be a review about the concealed carry pistol that I choose to use, and this is the Glock 48. I'm going to get into the specs here in a little bit. Now, this isn't going to be an extremely in-depth review. This is just going to be why I've chosen this particular firearm, why I carry it, how I carry it. This is the first Glock that I've ever personally owned. Now, not the first Glock that I've ever handled and or shot, but I've never been able to buy into the Glocks before because up until they started making their Slim series, everything they made, of course, was double stack. I'm kind of a medium build guy, so I have issues concealing a thicker pistol because I tend to carry appendix carry. But even if I carry around the 4 o'clock position, I still had issues with printing. So I was never able to really just commit to buying any of the Glock models because they were so thick. And I just didn't see myself paying Glock money for something that I just couldn't carry. I'm not that kind of a guy. I don't have a surplus in firearms. I tend to buy what I need and what I'm going to use, and that's really about it. I'm not what you would call a collector, not at this point in the game anyway. So when Glock come out with their Slimline series that started with their 42, I was super excited to see what they were going to come out with. And then they come out with the Glock 43, and I was pretty excited about that. And then they come out with the 43X, and I was super stoked about the size of the 43X and the capacity that it had. So long story short, I went into a gun store. I had a couple of pistols that I had that I liked. I just didn't love them, and I traded them. Actually, I traded 3 pistols in, and I gave just a little bit of cash for this firearm. And he was like, "Oh my God, you traded in 3 pistols for that?" Well, 2 of them I bought used, pretty much steel. One of them was less than $100. Another one was $125. And then I bought a Taurus G2C new. So I had very little money tied up in these 3 firearms, and I did carry all 3 firearms, not all at the same time, of course, but I would rotate through the 3. Now, the Taurus G2C was a very dependable pistol, and I really, really enjoyed shooting it, but carrying it was a little difficult because, again, it was a double stack. One of the pistols that I traded in for it was a Ruger EC9S, which I absolutely loved, as much as I've ever loved any kind of firearm like that, but I didn't carry it as often. I did have a Ruger LCP, the first edition, not the LCP2, just the LCP, and I liked it as well, but it was a 380. And I really liked the firearms that I had, but I just didn't love them. I've always wanted a Glock. Reliability with a Glock, just everything about a Glock, I've always liked. So I traded those 3 in, gave a little bit of cash, and I walked away with this firearm, and I'm super, super happy that I did it. Now, I'm carrying this firearm currently in a Hot Arms Kydex holster, of course, and this is an appendix rig. Now, I got this holster off eBay, and if you've watched my first pocket dump, you know how much I paid for it already, but I paid $36 shipped for this holster, and I'll pop this firearm out and get you a look at the holster. It's a very well made and very well constructed holster. Now, what you see in there is actually red Loctite. That's not rust, that's just red Loctite, because I didn't want these screws backing out when I was carrying it because of this wing attachment. They didn't go all the way through, and I don't carry my holster with too much retention. There's enough, but it's not difficult to draw. So I just put some red Loctite on there just to make sure they stayed put. But I'm going to do a video review of this holster at some point in the near future, but that's not what this video is about. So the Glock 48, let me remove the magazine because I carry this, and I carry it with one in the chamber. So, as you can see, nothing in the magazine well, nothing in the barrel. Pistol is safe. Okay, so some of the specs on the Glock 48, I'm just going to go ahead and roll that out real quick. Of course, this is a 9mm. Your length from back to front is 7.28 inches. Your height is 5.04 inches. Your overall width is 1.1 inches, and your slide width is 0.87 inches. Trigger pull on this particular model is 5.5 pounds, which is pretty common for your Glocks. They lighten up a little bit as you use them, but I have only shot about 500 rounds through this pistol thus far, so it's still sitting pretty much right at 5.5 pounds. The barrel length on this is actually a little bit longer than the Glock 19. With 4.17 inches. I'm wanting to say that the Glock 19 is actually a 4.1, but I'm not 100%, don't quote me on that, but I do know that the marksman barrel that they put in this is slightly longer. Of course, this one is completely stock. I've done nothing to it. So you've got the USOTs. Now, I've taken a Sharpie and I've blacked out the bottom line of that just to make it a little bit easier for me to acquire. It's just kind of a trick that I learned from a police officer friend of mine, and it works pretty well. And of course, the capacity for your stock magazine is 10 plus 1 in the chamber, and it comes with 2. So if you carry both magazines and you carry it hot, you're going to have 21 rounds of 9mm, which is pretty adequate. You can also go to a company named Shield Arms. I'm sure everybody that knows anything about this firearm already knows that for the 43X and the 48, you can get a 15-round metal magazine, and you want to have the same capacity as a Glock 19. I've waited a little while to buy in the magazines because I wanted to make sure that they were reliable. I've heard no complaints about the magazines. The one thing that I have heard, if you do have a 48 or a 43X, you do want to go ahead and get the metal magazine release button, because the metal mags will wear on these, and eventually it'll get to where it will not hold the magazine in place. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so why did I go 48 versus 43X? When I walked into the gun store, I had full intentions on getting the 43X, and I'm fairly good friends with the gun owner at this point. I go in his shop about once a month or so, and he saw me come in. He knew what I was coming in for, and he had just got this in the day before. And he said, "Hey, wait, before you pull the trigger on the 43, or the 43X, let me show you this Glock 48." Now, the only real difference between the 43X and the 48 is going to be your barrel and your slide length. The 43X will actually stop where this frame is, and it'll cut that much off of your barrel length. Now, why is that a big deal to me? Well, there's a couple of things, there's a couple of factors in it that made me go with the 48. And it's going to be, you will have slight accuracy increase with a longer barrel. Of course, that's a given. If you have a longer barrel, you'll be more accurate, or actually the gun will be more accurate. Now, is it going to be a massive difference? No, not massive, but any little bit, if it'll give me a leg up in the situation, I would rather have longer barrel length and a little more accuracy. Another thing is, if you ever look on some of your websites that show your firearm or your ammo specs, most of them are going to be fired out of a 4-inch barrel. So if you've got a 3-inch barrel, you can't exactly go with what the websites are saying as far as velocity and hollow point bullet spread and all of that if you've got a 3-inch barrel, because you're not going to get the average velocity of a 4-inch barrel. Now, did that cross my mind? No, but I did learn that later, and I was happy to know that you're going to get more accurate specs for your ammo out of a 4-inch barrel than a smaller barrel. Another reason that I went with a longer barrel is actually, and some people don't realize this, that a longer barrel could possibly, depending on your build, make it more comfortable to carry concealed, because you've got more length to kind of wedge or put leverage on the firearm when you're carrying it, versus a shorter barrel is more likely when you put it in, put it in your pants, if you've got a shorter barrel, it's more likely to kick itself out than if you've got a longer barrel up against your body, giving you more leverage to stay close to your torso or to your frame. So after you showed me the Glock 48, I decided this is the one that I want to go with. Now, essentially, this is and they could have modeled it a 19S, because essentially this is just a 19 Slim. Now, this is not a single stack magazine. This is a stack and a half. So your bullets are still a little bit staggered, not as much as a double stack, but you still have a little bit of staggering going down your magazine, which makes this a stack and a half, and that's what gives you your capacity. But essentially the footprint of this, other than the barrel being slightly longer than on the 19, this is essentially a Glock 19 footprint. But you've got about 1/4 of an inch in your width there. Well, not in the slide, but actually from magazine release to the frame here, you've got about 1/4 of an inch difference, and it's a little bit thinner. And that 1/4 of an inch is enough for me to make this a valid carry piece, because I don't have any issues concealing this firearm. Now, the pros of this firearm is concealability, Glock reliability. I can go into the pros of this firearm all day long. I don't mind the trigger. I don't mind the Glock trigger. I've never had an issue with the Glock trigger. Very accurate with the Glock trigger, and I don't have any intentions on changing out that Glock trigger. Do not like the Glock sights. That's definitely a con of this firearm, and that is going to be the first thing that I change, is the Glock sights. It's just, I can shoot well enough with it. I don't plan on doing any kind of hard training with this firearm at any point anytime soon, so I'm not very concerned with the fact that they're plastic sights. But before I would do any kind of firearms training, I would definitely swap these out for something steel. But I don't hate them. I don't necessarily like them. I'm not going to go so far as to say that they suck, but I'm going to say that they're not your best option. And if you can spring for some better sights, you should probably do so. Now, I'm not going to break this pistol down, because if you've seen one Glock breakdown, you've seen them all. And if you've seen the insides of one Glock, you've pretty much seen them all. One thing that I will say as far as carrying this firearm, it works for me, guys. Everything about this firearm just works for me. And I know a lot of people get tied up between, if you're going to carry a Glock 48, you might as well carry a Glock 19, and I completely understand that. And in some circumstances, I wouldn't mind carrying a Glock 19, and I would spring more for a Glock 19 than the Glock 48. But for me, 90% of the time, this is actually going to work better as far as concealability as a Glock 19. Now, I will say, between the Glock 19s that I've shot, and I've shot Generation 2, Generation 3, and Generation 4. I haven't shot the Generation 5 yet, but they all pretty much shot the same to me as far as I could tell. This is not much different, guys. It is slightly lighter, and when I say slightly, I mean slightly. There's not even a huge difference in the weight between the 19 and the 48, if you can believe that. Recoil and accuracy with this gun is very surprising. If you put a blindfold on me and you put this gun in my hand and you told me it was a Glock 19, I wouldn't know the difference. Other than, of course, feeling the, I hit the camera. Feeling the grip, yes, it's going to be a lot thinner than a Glock 19, and I would, of course, tell that immediately. But as far as handling and recoil on this pistol, I would have a hard time deciding whether it was a 19 or a 48. You would fool me. And that's how close it shoots to a Glock 19. So a lot of the guys that get tied up between, if I'm going to carry a 48, I'm just going to carry a 19. I completely get it, but in my situation, in my circumstances, this fits the bill, and this marks off more of the boxes in my concealed carry checklist than the Glock 19. Do I hate the Glock 19? No, I absolutely love the Glock 19. I do plan on getting one and building it for a home defense and or a vehicle gun. But this fits the bill for my concealed everyday carry. I don't think there's anything that I did not hit on this. Again, I do plan on changing the sights probably sooner than later, and I am looking at the Streamlight TLR6 for this. You're looking at about $85 for that lot. I don't want the laser. I just want a lot. So that's probably the gun light that I'm going to go with this. You can get aftermarket Picatinny rails that attach, like the TLR6. They attach to the, as far as I know, they attach to the front of the gun rail, and then they just kind of hook on the frame. But I could be wrong. I haven't looked into those too closely, but they are available. And then you will have a more of a compact Picatinny rail where you could put more like an Olight. Was it the Valkyrie 2 or something like that on there? But that is not necessary for me. 100 lumen light is sufficient because I always carry a light in my pocket as well. So if I need more light and more lumens, whatever's in my pocket will work just fine. But eventually I do want to put a light on this pistol. And I do know with the TLR6 there are several holster options that are readily available on Amazon and eBay that I don't have to get a special order or custom made. Again, I do carry the spare mag, and it's just in this cheap neoprene style holster, and it works really well. I paid $12 for 2 of these, so I'm definitely happy with that purchase. And I do carry it with Federal. Both of my magazines run the same ammo, Federal Train and Protect. They're just very good, dependable, and fairly inexpensive hollow point rounds. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this pistol. And I'm sure as I start doing modifications of this pistol, I'll put out more videos and some more content. Again, sights first, possibly a lot later. And I might polish the insides of it, the trigger rail and things like that. But we'll see how things go in the future. Well, all right. I still hadn't thought of anything catchy to say when I end the videos. So you guys just enjoy life and enjoy EDC. See you next time.